story started on a vacation where we met Nora, Leon, and Andy with Spice, for best friends, while filling out a college application. The children were already thinking about their future at that moment. They are interrupted by Conk and his friends, who invite them to explore the forest with them. However, Nora and the others reject the invitation. 8 years later, we see this group of friends on their graduation day, and while the others are having fun that night, Andy complains because they never do anything fun or get invited to parties since it's summer. Andy and his friends decide to get jobs and make some money before going to college. Andy, for his part, takes care of the tennis court, Nora is a laboratory assistant, Spice is a cook, and Leon is a karate trainer. Andy tells his friends that, thanks to their good work, he will now be in charge of training the beginner women. On the other hand, Leon meets the sister of one of his students, and after a bit of chatting with her, she invites him to a party she is going to throw, and she also tells him that he can bring whoever he wants with him. This leaves Leon very excited because it is the first party he has been invited to, and he can take his friends later. Later, he and Nora meet up with Andy and make fun of him because of the girl from India that Andy had met online. They tell him that he is probably a dude who wants to scam him, but Andy tells him that this girl is real and will visit him in a few weeks, and for that, he needs to save $2,000 to pay for her flight. That same day, they meet with Spice in the restaurant where he works, and Leon takes the opportunity to tell everyone that they are finally invited to a party. Andy is excited because he thinks it's what they need, but Spice and Nora make excuses not to go. However, Andy tells them that they have missed out on many experiences by not having fun with each other, and they need to start living the life. This convinces them, and they all agree to go to the party later. Andy practices tennis with the women at the club. He explains the positions in which he had to place the racket on how to make the shots. By the end, one of the women asks if he is able to give her a private lesson. He tells her that they can try, and she tells him to accompany her to her house. The next day, the four of them gather the courage to go to the party. The guard confirms that they are on the list and lets them pass. When they arrive, confused, they wonder what to do at the party, so they approach a couple and ask them where the alcohol is. The four of them try alcohol for the first time. They complain about the strong taste, but they continue drinking. Andy and Spice talk to two girls while they smoke, and then Andy tells them that Spice can prepare something so that it remains firm no matter the noise in the house. The girls don't believe him, and one of them bets him $100 that he won't make it. Spice agrees, and they go to the kitchen. On the other hand, Nora meets Erland, her laboratory partner, who she finds him very attractive. At the same time, a girl asks Andy about his talent, and he tells her that he can catch anything edible with her mouth. The girl is surprised and shows everyone Andy's talent. When they finish playing, she invites him to a more private place, and he accepts. On the other hand, Spice manages to win the bet, and it makes the best Soul. However, the girl tells him that she does not have the money to pay him for what she had bet on, but she can pay him with something else. But when they're about to get a little hotter, Spice gets really intense, and that bothers the girl, and she leaves him. Andy, for his part, confesses to the girl that he had never had sex before, and the girl asks him not to worry, and they do. When the party is over and everyone returns home, the parents of each one are worried because it was the first time that their children were late. The next morning, while they talk about what they did at the party, an unknown girl throws food at Andy, and he catches it by the mouth, and he explains to them that they had been told about his talent. Spice tells them that he didn't get any action, but at least he got another girl to invite him to another party, which excites everyone because they want to have fun again. That afternoon, Andy arrives at the woman's house to give his private tennis lessons. Andy starts looking for her for his lessons, but unexpectedly, this was all part of the woman's plan to seduce him, and the tennis lesson turns out to be on the bed, and they end up doing it after several rounds. The woman pays him very well for his work at dusk, and everyone goes to this second party. Andy and Spice observe the lion, who seems to be in another world after having consumed some substances. Additionally, they talk about Nora's relationship with Aaron, which bothers Andy because he is much older than her, and he thinks she will end up heartbroken. Spice asks him if he is in love with Nora, and Andy says no, and he continues giving private classes to pay for his girlfriend's flight. Days later, at the end of Andy's classes, he is approached by another woman who asks about his private lessons since her friend had recommended his services. Andy agrees to give this woman private lessons as well, and from that moment on, he begins to give lessons to all the women in the tennis club, which pay him very well, and Andy saves all this money so he can pay for his girlfriend's flight from India. One day, while Andy and his friends were playing mini-golf, Conk, his friend, arrives at the place who greets them after not having seen them for a long time. However, Nora asks them to leave them alone when they leave. Andy takes the opportunity to ask him about Aaron, since she doesn't think he's a good match for her, and this makes Nora upset by getting into his private life, so she just leaves the place. Spice, for his part, decides to tell the lion that Andy has been sleeping with tennis women for money, so he shouldn't talk about relationships with Nora. Andy tells him that it's different because he only does it for work. That same night, Andy decides to send the girl in India $2,000 for her flight. On the other hand, Nora tries to relax with Erland. However, she gets confused when calling her by another name, which bothers her a lot. Erland tries to calm her down and takes her to the laboratory, where he shows her projects she has never seen before. This makes her a little happier, and they end up making love in that place. The next day, while Andy is teaching a lesson, he gets surprised by the husband of one of the women arriving home early. So, Andy leaves the house naked as fast as he can, while the woman tries to hide his clothes. All this causes his boss to be very upset the next day and complain about what happened. He tells Andy that he knows about his private lessons and that they have also been done with women in tennis for years but have never ended up like Andy, and he warns him not to get caught because if suspicions begin, their business will be discovered. Days later, Andy and his friends meet at a beach party. Andy gets upset when he notices that Nora brought Aaron and starts teasing her. Nora decides to confront him about his behavior, and Andy asks her why she fell in love with that loser. Not knowing what to do with her feelings, Nora wants to know if he has feelings for her. As Andy is confused, she examines him with some romantic words, and they conclude that they can't be in a romantic relationship other than friends. They decide to forget the conversation and continue calmly at the park. Andy later apologizes to Erland for what happened and warns him not to hurt his friend. A little later, he receives a call from a woman who requests his private classes. Andy refuses at first, but the woman offers him $1,000, so Andy accepts without any hesitation. He arrives at the woman's house but is drunk after the party. He entered the house next door, where Conk unexpectedly working as a babysitter. They start talking, and Conk tells him that he was surprised to see him at parties because he had never seen him have a social life before. Andy explains that they had never been invited before. However, Conk tells him that the parties were always open and no invitation was needed, they just had to show up. To compensate, Conk tells him that he will host a great party where they will be the guests of honor. On the other hand, Nora discovers that Erland is cheating on her with other women, which upsets and depresses her a lot. The lion loses his job when it is discovered that he was under the influence of substances during his class. The next day, Andy is also fired when his boss complains to him because one of the women's husbands caught him coaching his wife in bed and left his headband at their house. All this causes the spouses to hold a meeting in which they discuss the person responsible for their wives' naughty behaviors, and that's where they find out they're one of the coaches at the same time. Andy and his friends meet up, and they talk about their current problems as the lion and Andy were fired and Nora was tricked by Erland. Andy tells them that Conk has invited them to a super party, and it is going to be the best of the year. This maybe would help them have some fun and forget the stuffs that didn't work out for them. Everyone agrees to go, but in that instance, Andy receives a call from the girl from India, which tells him that she had already arrived and she is waiting for him. When they go for the girl, the lion and Nora are surprised to see that the girl is real and very pretty. Andy rents a place for her to stay a few days alone to have some privacy time, and she asks him to do so because she had waited a long time for this day. But when Andy goes to the bathroom to get ready, a severe pain prevents him from urinating. He tells her that he must do some things first and will come back soon. He decides to go to the doctor. The doctor explains to him that he has an infection by having too many sexual encounters and he must abstain for at least 15 days. Since then, Andy tries to avoid the girl in private because he is unable to do it with her. Time goes by, and the day of the party arrives. They come in, start drinking, and sit by Khan as guests of honor. Meanwhile, Spice enhances the punch a little and meets a new girl. On the other hand, Conk informs Andy that, as it is his first party, he will have to undergo an initiation, which involves fighting for the remaining days of summer vacation. They start fighting, and when it seems like Andy will lose, he unexpectedly manages to subdue his opponent and win the fight. Nora, very happy, hugs him, but the Indian girl, upon seeing this, decides to leave, very upset. The lion notices this and approaches the girl before she departs, asking if everything is alright. At that moment, the husbands of all the women from the tennis club arrive, interrupting the party. They complain to Andy about the tennis lessons he gave their wives and start hitting him. However, the lion appears and defends his friend. The fight against all the husbands begins, but surprisingly, the lion manages to defeat and overpower them all. Spice appears very happy and tells them that he finally win over a girl. His friends congratulate him, and they continue with the party. Days later, the lion bids farewell to his new girlfriend, revealing that he spent a lot of money to bring her, but in the end, he won her over. They part ways as they will soon go to different universities. Now alone, Nora confesses to Andy that she has loved him all this time. They are both very happy and share a kiss. Subscribe for daily videos. If you enjoyed the story, please like it. See you in the next video. Hey!